So can we please stand to our feet and just honor the word of God as we welcome up Pastor Ray this morning.
Kia ora, how's everyone doing today? Awesome, have a seat. Look, it's a little bit nerve-wracking when you get to the end of the offering message and like you're ready for an altar call, let's go home, salvation, people saved. Hey, I'm a low altar guy, all right? I'm a low altar guy, so I'm gonna bring it down here just in case I say something that the high altar's it's not suitable for. People call me an evangelist.
I preach here too.
Oh, good, yes, but you preach actually up here, and then no, it's awesome. Hey, you have an unbelievable church, and I'm so stoked to be speaking at Citipointe, Auckland. Citipointe has the DNA of frogs. Red frogs came out of Citipointe, so it's just like being here with family. And so I'm so stoked. And my mum always told me that you shouldn't come empty-handed. So I come from a prophetic house. That's where I come from. So the word for Citipointe today, just as I was preparing this word, I was like, well, what's the word for Citipointe right now? And all I heard was Nehemiah over and over and over again. Sorry, Lord. Is that better? Yes. Now I've got my preaching voice on. No. The word for Citipointe, this is it. The time of establishment and planting is over. You guys are 10 years now, yeah? Is it 10 years? Yeah. You're out of planting phase. This church is going to survive. This church is going to thrive. You are established here in your city. And so for this season, I believe that this season is a season of building walls. Now, walls in the secular seem kind of negative. Sometimes we talked about breaking down walls. But actually, when we talk, another way that the walls are talked about in the Bible is that whole idea of rebuilding the walls of the city. It's actually, what are you taking responsibility for? The wall that you build and the size of the walls that you build here at Citipointe, Auckland, is actually going to define who you take responsibility for. So here's the word. Don't worry about rebuilding the walls of your household. Rebuild the walls of the city. Don't worry about rebuilding the walls of the church. Rebuild the walls of your city. You're called to rebuild the walls of the city. Now, the bigger the walls are, the more gaps there are going to be, yeah? And so as you're repairing, as you're rebuilding walls, be willing to stand in the gap for a generation. And that's what my message is going to be today. But how big are your walls going to be? What are you audacious enough to take responsibility for? Are your walls going to be big enough for St. Kentigern's just around the road? Man, that's a school that needs Jesus, yeah? Are you going to build walls that are big enough for Pakuranga? We're in Pakuranga, hey. This isn't Papakura. This is let's go. East side, represent. Okay. Are you believing for walls that are big enough for East Auckland? Are you believing for walls that are big enough for Tamaki Makaurau? It's outrageous, right? Is this a church that believes that they can have walls that are literally around the walls of this city? It's an outrageous call, but God calls us to do outrageous things. So this is the reason I'm going to share the message that I shared today, okay? The message that I'm going to do today, if we can throw up, there it is. Excellent. It's called the Gapfiller generation. Don't wait to be ready, wait to be sent. Don't wait to be ready, be willing to be sent. So, just before I get started, for those of you that are going to write notes, I really like having this is what the whole structure is going to be. The whole structure, here's the points. So for the youth at the front, you can switch off after this, but please don't. What's in your heart? What's in your hand? And what are you full of? All right, what's in your heart? What's in your hand? What are you full of? You've got people side-eyeing each other all over the church. This is great. So my name's Ray. I'm the national director for Red Frogs, but actually at my heart, I'm a local church pastor. My heart's the local church. The local church is the vehicle that God's using to reach the city. So when we're talking about mission and being on mission, here now today is a missional space. All right, so what I talk about, I'm an evangelist, so I'm going to talk about going outside the walls of the church. If you don't think that that's something that you're called to, you're probably wrong, but that's okay. But if you're not one of the people that leaves the 99 to go after the one, be the part of the 99 that means that when the one comes home, there's going to be a phenomenal space. There's going to be a family for them. See, the thing is the wider your reach is, the uglier your church is going to look. Because your church is going to be full of broken people going through the process of redemption. So before you've got broken people going through the process of redemption, make sure that you redeem yourself and put yourself in a position where you can disciple others. That's the guts of it. So we're going to talk about the Gapfiller generation. At my heart, I'm a local pastor. I just do it in a slightly different way now. My heart as the director of Red Frogs is that we equip the local church to do the work that God's called us to do, which is to reach the lost, to bring the lost home. Who's heard of Red Frogs before? It's actually one of Citipointe's largest outreaches in New Zealand and Australia. So congratulations. You guys are actually part of one of the largest youth organisations in New Zealand. That's the DNA that you carry. And so it's a little bit like a weird uncle coming to explain to you how your own family tree works. Do you know how that's weird? But actually, it's kind of awesome when you've got the weird uncle that carries the history that can actually give you a better understanding of the work that's already been done in New Zealand. Does that make sense? Yeah. So hopefully your faith joins our faith as we believe that we can stand in the gap for a generation and we can see New Zealand one for good and for God. Right. So, Red Frogs is a harm prevention organisation. I'm not, who's been to Brisbane before? Who's met Andy Goulet before? I'm not actually related to Andy Goulet. I just look a little bit like him. We're not related in any way whatsoever. But if Andy was here, the first thing that he would do is show you the true history of Red Frogs. So I just wanted to give you like a 5-minute video, just so you know what Red Frogs is, so that when I speak about it, it just makes a little bit more sense. Is that okay? So thanks so much, guys.
Hi, my name's Andy Goulet, aka Boss Frog. I'm here to give you the inside story on how Red Frogs started. See, it all started because looking after a bunch of sketchy punk skaters up in Vegas, they were getting up to no good, but when they got to year 12, they all went to schoolies, and I went down to look after them. When I got down to the Gold Coast, I just couldn't believe how big it had gotten. Schoolies everywhere. Had a tin of VB come off a building, like smashed just a metre from me. Saw a chair come off a building into a pool. Guys doing nudie runs past you as thousands of schoolies were going past them chanting, "Let's go down the road, let's go down the road." So I went to visit my boys in the hotel room, and I went to get in, but there was a massive security guard who wouldn't let me in. I was ticked, I was spewing at him. But I sort of went down the road and I thought, no, I'm not letting this fella tell me I can't look after my skaters. So the next day, I went into the hotel manager and said, "Look, do you want a hand at Schoolies Week?" And she goes, "Oh, that sounds fantastic." Takes me in her office and starts making me like cups of tea and scones. And then she goes like, "How many friends can you bring down to Schoolies?" Just to give you an idea, like her building was 400 17-year-olds. In every room there's more alcohol and grog stacked up than you could chuck your nana at. And there's more other substance floating around than you care to mention. And like 2 security guards and 1 hotel manager trying to keep a lid on 400. So we just started crashing parties just when it started going like floor to floor, finding kids passed down stairwells, and found this one kid passed down the lift with a bucket on his head, so we took him out of the lift, dragging him back to the units. And so there's music belting through this door, and we knocked on this door. A little schoolie peers out and goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Oh, Hotel Chaplaincy." He goes, "Hotel what?" I said, "Yeah, Hotel Chaplaincy." He goes, "Hotel security?" It was a real hassle getting into the rooms, like really difficult getting in. And so we legged it down to the local convenience store, found this massive big box of Allen's Red Frogs. And we just grabbed this big box of frogs, went straight back up to this unit, knocked on this door, little schoolie peers out. He goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Oh, Hotel Chaplaincy." He goes, "Hotel what?" I said, "No, mate, no. Do you want a red frog?" He goes, "Oh, red frogs, yeah, come on in, man." And he was yelling, "We got frogs!" And all his mates start coming off the veranda grabbing handfuls of these red frogs. And I'm standing here with this box of lollies going, these things are amazing. Then went to the next room, knocked on the room, it was like the naked room. All they were wearing were pots and pans and stuff. And some big unit had a saucepan full of alcohol. And he points it out, he goes, "Oh, drop a frog in the pond, mate, drop a frog in the pond." He had said, "Righto, mate, there you go." So I got on the phone to our workers and said, "Buy the Gold Coast out of red frogs right now." Went to every convenience store, every cash and carry Woolies, and we got 80 kilos of red frogs. And they just got us into every party, just straight away. Even past the big security guards that weren't letting us in. We'd rock up, they go, "Where you going? Can't come in here." "Mate, want a red frog?" "Oh yeah bro, coming in bro." And then the next year the council rang me again and said, "Andy, can you bring your teams back?" And we brought back 45 workers the next year and went through 220 kilos of frogs. But then next year it was 90 workers and 440 kilos of frogs. Then 130 workers the next year with 880 kilos of frogs. Then the next year 1.2 tonne of Allen's red frogs. And then now we've gone to 24 tonne a year through all our programs, reaching 70,000 schoolies in over 17 locations. We talk to 52,000 Year 12s in our high school education program. We're now one of the largest support networks for schoolies in Australia. It's also one of the largest support networks in universities in Australia, as well as now music festivals, sporting events, and overall our programs, it's around 1.2 million Aussies we deal with a year. Why? Because I ride a skateboard, and took some kids skateboarding 3 hours a week. And it's amazing, like, the power of little things, Little things over a long period of time become big things if you're consistent. People think that they can't make a difference, that the issues are too big, and they don't realise that if everyone does just something, that all adds up to some big impact in life. And so it's just an amazing honour to now champion this amazing movement called Red Frog, with thousands of volunteers that are involved every year. And it's just one of my greatest honours and greatest privilege to still be involved with all these young champions coming through, doing far bigger stuff than what I ever did at their age. And mate, it is an absolute privilege.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome what's happening in Australia, but New Zealand, let's go. So we're actually at the end of festival season at the moment. Symphony, anyone go to Symphony? Nah, because you come to church on Sunday morning, fair enough. Awesome. So there was a team of 13 of us handed out water at Symphony Festival last night, this morning, yesterday. 13 of us handed out just over 2,500 litres of water into the crowds. That's over 13,000 cups of water from 5 different churches, people sitting there being willing to hand out cups to people that were feeling a little dusty, probably not going to be in church this morning. And as a result of that, for festivals, there's actually over 330,000 people that we've reached in festivals just this first 3 months of the year. In terms of students, universities in New Zealand, we're actually in 41 halls out of 84. We're in 47% of all of the halls. And there's a team of about 300 volunteers from about 35 different churches that are literally interacting with over half of the first year students here that go to halls in New Zealand. Who knows that that's beyond tipping point? There's actually a cultural shift that's starting to take place. In fact, out of the 180,000 university students in New Zealand, Red Frogs has been, New Zealand Red Frogs, church with a shirt on, volunteers that are just willing to stand in the gap, have actually interacted with 35,000 university students already over O week. Well, it's O month, but still. So, there's not too many things that I can speak on, but one of the things that I do speak on quite a bit is being willing to stand in the gap. So I'm just going to give you the best of what I got. Is that okay? Amazing. All right. So here's this call. Your theme for this year is there not a cause? I can tell you that there's a cause. At the moment, we've got 50 churches, 500 volunteers. If we had 1,000 volunteers, we could change university culture in New Zealand. Like fully transform. Universities would look different. If we had 1,500 volunteers, that would include festival culture. If we had 2,000 volunteers, that would include New Zealand culture across the board. We'd just start saying yes to everything. We'd be doing safe zones in the middle of town. standing in the gap for a generation that may not have even stepped foot into the church. But there would be a person with the gospel on their heart interacting with people outside Bar 101. Whatever that weird viaduct area is at the bottom of the viaduct, there's an Irish pub and there's a Mexican pub. And there's no Pacifica pub because you fellas are in church on Sunday, so well done. Anyway. But here's the call. This is the thing. So remember Nehemiah? This is my life verse. So I just wanted to say Ezekiel 22:30 says this. I looked for someone among them, one amongst many, a few amongst a lot, who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land. So I would not have to destroy it, but I found no one. Wow. This is a call to action. Does God want to destroy the land? Absolutely not. What is he looking for? He's looking for someone that's willing to stand in the gap for a generation. Right. So, are you willing to stand in the gap? See, a dictionary defines stand in the gap as to expose oneself, so expose yourself for the protection of something to take the place of a fallen defender or supporter. So what that means is that being willing to stand in the gap where other people have stood before. Don't expect Pastor Ben and Pastor Shane and anyone to be the only people that stand in a gap. There's numerous examples of people standing in the gap for others. There's Moses, David, Joshua, Jesus. And hardly any of those fellows were prepared. So my question for you today is, are you willing to stand in the gap for a generation? Now, I've got 3 pictures, and none of these pictures are perfect, right? But together, it might give you a bit of an understanding. Who plays rugby? Oh, boys. Okay. Can I get you to lay on the ground like you've just been tackled? He's like, no, straight up no. He's like, what was your name, bro? Oh, Ray, nice to meet you. Just pretend that someone's finally tackled you after like 26 decent runs, all right? So as if you're on the ground. See, he's reluctant because he's never been tackled that hard before. It's just... Now, in rugby, there's this whole idea of a rugby maul, right? So that when someone so he's run up the ball, right? He's taken territory, but has gotten to the point where he can't go any further, right? Now, I can choose to do something about that, or I can let some other fellas do it. You can stay on the ground. I'm about to step over you. I'm sorry for that. Are you okay with that? Consent is important. Okay. All right. So you have a choice. So I stand over, what was your name again? Bo. I stand over her. I'll have people to the left of me. I have people to the right of me. I'm protecting him from the enemy. I'm also protecting my home territory. Here's a picture of standing in the gap. This is what it looks like. So will you see a gap? Will you fill a gap? So that's the first one. Thanks so much. Give him a hand. Standing in the gap, you see in Nehemiah, where people are willing to literally stand in the gap. They're not necessarily builders, they're not masons, but actually literally in one hand they've got swords and shields, in the other hand they have the tools of their work. Now for most of us in this room, that's who we are, right? Like we come to church on Sunday, but Sunday is not the main event. It's actually Monday to Saturday is the important time. That's where the work of the mission happens. And we come to church on Sunday, and we commiserate, man, this embarrassing thing happened to me when I stood in the gap. Or man, there's this testimony of someone that's in the room as a result of us being willing to step into the gap for someone else. Right. The third one is that old story of shepherds literally used to sit. There was a gap for the sheep, right? And that was where the shepherds slept. They literally protected the hole in the wall. We're a holy church. The Church of New Zealand is a holy church. It has holes everywhere. And so are you willing to stand in the gap today? Right. See, the thing is that we wait to be chosen, or to be picked when we go on mission. But actually, that's not the picture at all. When we have a look at Isaiah's calling, we think of like today's generation, it's kind of like that pick me. I want to be chosen. I want to be first pick. But actually, what God's looking for is a send me, I'll go culture. Don't wait to be picked. You are already called. You have marching orders, and we'll go over it just briefly. The process of Isaiah's calling is really useful for this. So think about Isaiah 6. Now, Isaiah 6:5 is the first verse in Isaiah's calling, and Isaiah's calling starts with Isaiah saying, "I can't do it. I'm unworthy." Isaiah 6 verse 5, it says, "Woe to me, I cried." What a great confidence in his mission. "Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined." What a great position of power to come from. This guy's ready to be sent, Pastor Isaiah. "For I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord God Almighty." Do you know you're uniquely custom crafted to reach your world? I can't reach the people that you can reach. I don't operate in the spheres that you operate, whether it's your school, whether it's your workplace. So if you're at the point where you're like, man, I can't ever be sent because like I'm dirty as. I'm just not ready. That's where Isaiah started. That's where Moses started. No, I can't do it. I've got to stutter. There's no way. Send someone else. Send someone else. Send someone else. We can always disqualify ourselves. We can always find an excuse. But at the point that we start ignoring our own excuses, something powerful starts to happen. Being in a position here, being at church today, means that you're putting yourself in a position where you can be altered. You're putting yourself in a position where you can come in one way, you can go out sent, commissioned, ready to go. There's this process that happens. So at the point that Isaiah identifies, hey, I'm not good to go, the seraphim God goes, hold my communion. I'm not sure what God would hold. I was going to say hold my beer. This is why it's a low altar message. But then it goes into, then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and says, see, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin is atoned for. Redeemed, set apart, altered, putting yourselves in great positions like in connect groups. Here at church on Sunday, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you can be altered and then set apart, set free, altered, and then in a position to be willing to be set. That's the process. It's interesting, at the point that the coal touches Isaiah's lips, Isaiah has literally done nothing apart from stand. I can't go. Lip touch. Then God says, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Not specific. Really important. Not specific. Whom shall I send? God's literally going, hey, who's keen? And who will go for us? Who will represent? When God says us, that means the kingdom of heaven. Who's going to be my emissary? Who's going to be my representative? That's a pretty big call, right? Have you ever put the call out for a volunteer and like the person that volunteers isn't the person you wanted to volunteer? Oh, there's some awkwardness in there. Okay. Obviously not at church, but like at school and stuff like that, right? And it's that person that says, hey, I'll go. That's literally what God's doing. There's a trust there that's unbelievable. If you think that you're unprepared, if you think that you're not ready to go, you're on the journey to calling. You're on the journey to be sent. Identifying that you're not ready is step one. Identifying that you're ready is a red flag for any decent pastor. Hey, I am ready to preach is a pretty good reason for me not to put someone on the pulpit. Just me, I'm a church planner, so I probably would have anyway, but yeah, no. There's a call. God calls. And then there's this ... And we can choose to respond. Very Anglican, right? Call and response. Peace be with you and also with you. But it's like this. It's this holy handshake. Here's my thought. What if God calls and continually calls, waiting for people to just be willing to go? At the point that you put yourself in a position that you're willing to go, the next time God calls, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. 13 people was not enough to, we were at Symphony last night, 13 people was not enough for just under 40,000 people. We never had enough people, but we were willing to stand in the gap and give it a crack, and we did our second highest water stats for the year. Crazy. Don't wait until you're good enough. Just be willing to be called. See, this is the thing, is Andy, the guy that you saw in the video just before, one of the things that he says is, I cannot and shall not and will not do nothing for my generation. If you're alive, you're part of this generation. You still are. You can't be too young to be called. You can't be too old to be called. If you're alive and you're breathing, you're called. So I get to wander away. So I'm going to do a challenging message and go, sorry, Pastor Ben, there you go. We'll just figure out what it means off the back of it, okay? God doesn't call me to do everything. Say this to yourself. God doesn't call me to do everything. Because as soon as we think we have to do everything, it's too much, right? The gap, the lack, it's too much for us. Like, it freaks you out, doesn't it? If as Red Frogs, we're called to reach a generation, save a generation, both practically and spiritually. We serve in order to save. We serve a generation to save a generation. And we do that both practically and spiritually. All right? God doesn't call you to do everything, but you need to do something. You need to do something. He calls you to do something. If you're doing nothing right now, you are warming a seat, which is awesome. But if that's all that you're doing, can I suggest to you that there's potentially more to do? Okay? We're sometimes waiting to be picked when God is waiting for us to be willing to be sent. You might feel unequipped. Good. The picture of Jesus' ministry was to take disciples at the start of, on a 3-year journey, where at the start, they were unequipped. At the end, they were unequipped. They only really came good after he died and rose again. So if you're in a process of discipleship, amazing, good, so good. In the Bible, time and again, we don't see people who were gifted and capable. The guys that were gifted and capable in the Bible were often the ones that have stories of pride, like stories of a fall. We see people who were willing and made themselves available. Even sometimes against their own no, they still said yes. Moses clearly said no again and again and again, and eventually still went. Isaiah said no and then eventually still went. Peter said no 3 times and it was kind of a big deal, and Jesus cooked him breakfast and still sent him. Here's my thought. Willingness is more important than capability and gifting. I'll give it a go. Do you know, a testimony of failure should be celebrated as much as a testimony of success. Hey, I tried this, it failed spectacularly. Amazing, go again. Can't wait to hear next week's failure, it's going to be awesome. God was with them. God equipped them and was with them. He prepared them, but no one was ever fully prepared. So don't wait to be ready. There's a call on your life, and you shouldn't wait to be ready to start outworking that. Don't wait for you to arrive at a certain milestone. Once I finish uni, once I finish my graduation, once I finish school, once I retire, once I drop down to 3 days, once I finish playing sports. It could be complete uni, get married, move to West Auckland. I don't know. Is West Auckland better? Oh, gee, that was... Oh, okay, we'll work on that. I don't want to cause a gang war. All right. There's a call for you here, now, today. There's a call for you here, now, today. I think that in this room, there's some dormant callings. I think for some of you are frozen because you're so worried that you're going to work out your calling, and you think your calling is like a tightrope. If you walk to the left or to the right just a little bit, you're going to fall off. That's not how calling works. Time and again, Jesus will pick you up and go again. That didn't work, go again. That didn't work, go again. Oh, that worked, that's amazing. How good are you? There's this atmosphere of encouragement. So, your calling is not like a tightrope. Your calling is wandering through a branching forest. It's okay if you take the wrong turn. You can always change and go the right way. That's the process of repentance. Man, I tried that. That was out of line. I'm so sorry, Jesus. Can I go again? Go again. At the point that you realize your calling is not a tightrope, you'll at least start walking towards the general direction of where God's called you. As Pastor Ben said before, yes, do the things that you can in order to be prepared, but you'll never be fully prepared. So don't wait to be fully prepared. So here's 3 questions to help define your calling. God, what are you calling me to do? Actually, I think I missed one thing that was kind of important. If you don't know what your call is, super simple. We have standard operating procedures in the Bible. We actually do. There's 3 things we have to do, every single Christian. Love God, love others, make disciples. If you don't know what to do, you've got standard operating procedures. Go start doing that. You'll live a good life if you do that your whole life. Love God, love people, make disciples. Good life, calling fulfilled. Okay, 3 questions to help define your calling. God, what are you calling me to do? Now, here's an interesting thing. You have lifelong callings. You have callings for a season. Some of you have said no to seasonal callings because it's not your lifelong calling. Sometimes God calls you to something, to put your hand to something for a season, and that's good. Don't say no to that just because you're wanting to do this other thing that's further down the road. So here we go. Question 1. What do you see? Or what need do you see? Where has God put your attention? What your focus is often related to what your calling is. Frustration can be a call to action. If anyone's ever come to me as a pastor and said, hey, I'm really frustrated about this, I've immediately gone, cool, where's God call you to help fill that need? Be very careful about complaining about kids ministry. You'll end up in kids ministry. Be very careful not to run away from kids ministry. In my experience, you end up being the kids pastor. All right? Rather than frustration being something that you sit with, it can actually be a call to action. Revival can be on the opposite side of your personal obedience and your personal discomfort. God's never called us to be comfortable. That's a whole nother message, Pastor Ben. One of the things that happened for us when we were doing Red Frogs was COVID. Red Frogs almost died. Like we got to $20. I remember the exact moment that I spent the last $20. I had to use the rest of my money to pay for the rest of the meal. I had 2 friends that had also been doing Red Frogs for a number of years. I bought them coffees. I cried really ugly in front of them, and we thought that was it. And that was actually the point that God started calling and started breathing life into what Red Frogs has become today, which is a ministry of the local church. Red Frogs is the outreach arm of young adults ministries and ministries all across New Zealand. during COVID, we actually got kicked out of the halls, not for any particular reason. We were doing a good job, but they literally couldn't have us in the halls. And so we got disinvited from everywhere. You imagine being a university ministry that's not allowed to go anywhere near the universities. So we're in a Dunedin, and I'm talking to the OUSA, the person in charge of the student support network. And he's just said, hey, you've been uninvited to every single O-Week event. Which is, as you saw with Andy, like universities, schoolies, all of that kind of stuff is actually our bread and butter. It's the heartbeat of who we serve. And I just laughed and I went, oh, well, we'll just go on Frog Castle Street then. Castle Street being the big student area in Dunedin. Almost every really, really big party, any negative press, when it comes to Dunedin, it probably is videos from Castle Street. Okay, wallabies get barbecued down there. They have designated sick bins. There's glass everywhere. It's 4,000 people. There's all kinds of harm that happen down there. So out of a point of frustration, I'm like, oh, well, we'll just go Frog Castle Street. And I laughed. And the guy that I was having the meeting with from the university laughed. And then he stopped laughing. And then I stopped laughing. And then I went, crap. That's literally what I said. Sorry, that's for those of you that's harshling. Poopies. I don't know what else we'd say. That's worse, actually. Ugh, that gave me the ick. The next meeting I had was with the police officer. I said, hey, I've got this stupid idea, and I'm just really frustrated because I can't get into the university. What do you think about us going down and serving pancakes down Castle Street? He laughed and went, that's a terrible idea. And then he stopped laughing. And then I went, crap, for the second time for the day. He said, yeah, no, that's exactly what you need to do. So off the back of that, off of that point of frustration, we were actually called to a space. We're literally in the most dangerous university space that I can think of anywhere across New Zealand, and the church is the answer to that need. So we've now got 6 different churches that are going down Castle Street. We're now starting to think about this thing called Street Shepherds, where we're literally going to have a pastor of Castle Street. Because it makes sense to me that if we're serving the students of Castle Street, we should pastor the students of Castle Street, right? So we've made a list of the 35 named flats. They have named flats, and I can't say 3/4 of them in a church environment. Honeypot is probably the best one that I can do. And it kind of goes downhill from there. All right? And so literally there's going to be someone that's going to be raised up to pastor that street for generations to come. See, there's hearts in every region. There's hearts in every city. There's hearts here in Pakuranga. St. Kentigern's is a heart. This industrial area here is a heart. And at the point that we start specifically walking towards the hearts, walking towards the messes and starting to answer the needs where we capture the hearts of the regions that we're a part of, then culture starts to shift. Right. So are you willing? Are you called? What do you see? Where's your attention? I love that distraction word this morning, Pastor Ben. Like there's something in there. At the point, whatever you focus on gets bigger in your life. So focus on the need. In other words, what's on your heart? David had a heart for worship and he had a heart to serve. He followed the instructions of God, and the instructions of God were time and again, like his generational calling was, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you even to the end of the age. That was that every generation that came before, up to Abraham, that was their standing call. Be strong and courageous wherever you are. Be strong and courageous wherever you are. It's okay, I will be with you. So what's in your heart? What's on your heart is probably related to your calling, but also what's in your hand. Right. What do you have to offer right now? See, Moses had a stick and a stutter, and God used that to free an entire people. David had slings and a stone, and he didn't even when David was sent, he didn't say yes to killing Goliath. He said yes to delivering pizza to his brothers. That's what he said yes to. And then he kept saying yes. Right. Your yes is important. Start going into getting into the habit of saying yes to Jesus. Where's your next yes to Jesus? See, if you continue to say yes to Jesus, it's really hard to go far from him. Right. Does that make sense? Your yes brings you closer. Unfortunately, the other side of your no potentially, yeah. Let's talk about the yes. See, for Red Froggers, we have pancakes, we have a cup of water, we've got a lolly, and we've got a vomit bag for the people feel unwell, and what's inside them comes out. But more than that, we're a kind word, a caring shoulder. More than that, every interaction represents compassion, love, and the Spirit of the living God. Remember, we don't see the world the way the world sees it. We have a different perspective. And so the way that we overcome is we help the world to see themselves the way that God sees them, worthy of love, worthy of hope. See, God calls us to be, like God's the glory and the lifter of our heads, He calls us to be the lifter of others' heads. What He's done for us, we can do for others. Your testimony, where He's brought you from, you can bring other people from, because do you know the way? You know the way. I am the captain. Okay, no, that's some. Be willing to be in the right place at the right time. There was this one story, my favorite story for frogs. There was this one time, there was this girl. Her name was Demi, and she didn't think that she should have been a part of Red Frogs. And we were in this hotel room as a team together with a girl that was really, really unwell. She was under the influence of drugs. As a result of being under the influence of drugs, she decided that she didn't want to be there anymore. And I don't mean that she was suicidal in that sense of the word. I mean, physically, she thought she could fly. And so she ran for the balcony. Now, Demi, who had said basically nothing the entire week, as this girl went, I don't want to be here anymore, stood up. There was an open door to a balcony. It was about 25 floors up. The girl literally dove for the balcony. I don't want to be here anymore. She didn't mean that in the way she wanted to end her life. She just meant, well, I can fly, so it's going to be fine. Demi literally spear tackled her into the door and started crying because she thought that she'd broken every frog's rule. Oh my goodness, I've touched someone that I shouldn't have touched. I've pushed her, I've injured her. She literally saved this girl's life simply because she was willing to stand in the gap, because she was the one that was standing by the door when this girl wanted to do what she decided to do. When the girl came to, she has no recollection of it. It was never her intention. There was just a moment where the devil wanted to take her out. And as a result of someone being willing to stand in the gap, that girl now has a future, has a hope. She's now a leader. She's in church. So we serve hundreds, but we connect with one. So, final thing then, third question. That's the second question. Go to the person to your left and say, what are you full of? Turn to the other person and go, hey, what are you full of? Now look at your best friend beside you and go, you are full of, and then, no, that's it. What are you full of? Or in other words, who do you carry? Who do you carry? I love this. There is a move of God within you. You carry a move of God within you. You carry the presence of the living God within you, so you carry a move of God within you. You can walk into your workplace tomorrow, and your workplace can be different as a result of who you carry. See, whether or not we carry the presence of God isn't up to us because we're Christians. We're already carrying the Spirit of the living God. The Holy Spirit is within us. So when you walk into your workplace tomorrow, when you walk into your school tomorrow, you carry a move of God within you. You carry a cultural shift within you. It's an outrageous thing to say, right? But it's true. There's a well within you. All you've got to do is start to become aware of it and start operating as if there's a well within you, because there's a well within you. Does that make sense? We've praised, we've worshipped, we've stood in the presence of God. There is a well within you that you can use to help change the world around you. All that needs to change is your willingness and your awareness that there's a well within you.
So good.
There was this one time. Sorry, this is a really bad story, and I'm going to finish after this, which is probably not the greatest. There was this one time we were in a room over at Schoolies Week doing Red Frogs, and it was a really bad room. There was what appeared to be food on the wall, but it was brown, so we're not 100% sure just exactly what the substance was. It was a room of really, really nasty boys. And this particular night, we'd go and visit them, and every time we went to visit them, it wasn't great. But this particular time, we're in the room, we just wanted to say hi to them and then kind of move on, which is sometimes what you do when the vibe's not good. But what happened was there were about 20 boys came in, and there was like an 18-year-old girl that came with them who obviously didn't want to be with them. And they basically pushed past us. And they went into the room and we're like, hey, would you like us to cook your pancakes? Nah, but you can stay there for a minute. They went into the bedroom, they shut the door, and we're sort of standing here in this room going, oh man, what do we do? It was kind of like I sometimes called it felt like there was a dirty soap bubble. Like, you know when there's an atmosphere, you know the atmosphere's not good, you know the vibe's not good? All we could do was pray. Lord, would you change this atmosphere? And at the point that we joined together, we prayed, and we were willing to stand in that space that we didn't want to be in. It was like the soap bubble popped. And I can't put it any other way. Like, it was generally like a smoky, dirty soap bubble. The bubble popped. What happened is the door flew open. And the 20 boys, one after the other, heads down. And on their way past, they're going, don't look at the frogs, don't look at the frogs, don't look at the frogs, don't look at the frogs. All 20 of them. The girl came out of the room and said, thank you for what you did. We didn't do anything. We didn't know what to do. We were thinking about whether to call police or not, but just simply being there and praying and contending for this girl that was going to have a really, really, it would have been a life-changing experience for her, a negative experience for her. And just being willing to be there in those spaces. You bring peace. You bring power. You bring reconciliation. That's what you carry. You carry a move of God within you. You are an atmosphere shifter simply because of who you are. Simply of being in great environments of faith like here, where you can go out of this space and basically you leak out all over people across the week. I know for sure that there's people that will talk to you all the time about, hey, why are you the way that you are? You're just so positive all the time. Have a good answer for that. Have a good answer for that. So, what does all this mean? Super simple. Let's go back to Ezekiel 22:30. I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so that I would not have to destroy it, but I found no one. Next slide. I think there's a next slide. Next slide after that one. God is working in you, through you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Don't worry about what direction you go. If you've got the Holy Spirit within you, you're going to get directed anyway. Your life is not a tightrope. Your calling is not a tightrope. And so you end up with this. Next slide, sorry. Next slide. Why did I do that twice? It's that whole idea of Ezekiel 22:30 with Isaiah 6:8. Are you willing to stand in the gap for a generation? And you've got the Isaiah response. Send me, I'll go. What I want to do, I'm going to hand back to Pastor Ben, but I want to pray for some people because I think that would be good. If you're willing to stand in a gap today, if you're willing to stand in the gap, just go, yeah, I'm willing. I'd love to pray for you. I just wanted to commission some people. Because for some of you, it's just a case of stepping out. And at the point that you step out, you're going to see opportunities start to come. That's the first group of people I wanted to pray for. Second group of people I wanted to pray for. If you're at the point where you're like, oh, woe is me, I'm a man or a woman of unclean lips, I'm not ready. I just want to pray that the Holy Spirit touches you today. You start to go through that process of redemption. And so that's it. And I'll probably pray the same prayer for both groups because the end point is the same. God's asking, are you willing to be sent? And I want you to be able to, everyone stand, say, send me that I'll go. So if that's you, I'm just going to open the altar down the bottom here. I'm going to pull this stuff away and I'm just going to pray for some people. Not going to pray for long. But I just want to pray for this house as a house, just for a second. And then if you want to come down, you can. No stress if you don't. Lord, I thank you for this house of God. I thank you that this is a city on a hill. I thank you this is a wall-building church. I thank you that this is a church that is willing to be sent. I thank you that this is a church that is willing to stand in the gap for a generation. Lord, wherever we are on that process, for those of us that are saying, oh, we're unequipped, Lord, would you touch us? You know, it says in your word that we're not born with a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love and of power and of a sound mind. Give us right thinking, God. Let us see the way that you see. Let us see our environment the way that you see our environment. Even though we can't do everything, God, would you call us to do something? Holy Spirit, would you be with us throughout the week? That as we speak, we would speak with the authority of heaven. That we would be apostles for you, God. That we would change the world around us for God and for good. Thank you, Jesus. Come down if you want to be prayed for.